Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm finally sharing my October reading journal setup. A little later than planned, but honestly very on brand for this season of life. October just flew by, and while I didn't have as much time to edit as I wanted, I did manage to film October, November, and December, so those are coming very soon. I just need to sit down, edit, and add the voiceovers, which, let's be real, always takes the longest. For October, I read 7 books, and this setup is all about creating a cozy, fall-inspired space to reflect on them. The first spread I'm working on here is my cover page, which also acts as a divider for all of my October reads. This page sets the tone for the month and helps me keep everything organized at a glance. On the left side, I have a mini cover page, and underneath it, I list all the books I read along with their star ratings. I really love having everything summarized in one place. It makes it sort of satisfying to look back and see how my reading month shaped up. On the right side is where I track all of my reading stats, things like authors, genres, and formats. I don't do this to pressure myself or hit goals, but more as a way to notice patterns in my reading and see what I'm naturally gravitating towards. Some months surprise me, and others feel very on theme, and October definitely leaned into those cozy, atmospheric vibes. I wanted the setup to feel extra cozy and fall-inspired, so I reached for warm colors, soft textures, and layers that feel comforting and a little nostalgic. I am using a Neapolitan journal for my reading journal, and so this is the part of the journal where you have half a page wide and half a page cropped space, and so it felt very fitting to stick with those fully cozy vibes. I'll be honest, the craft pages have been the ones I've struggled with the most in this journal, and it kind of took me forever to even finish creating the spreads for October just because they were all in craft paper, and that was a little bit annoying at times. The washi tape that I'm using here is from Paperminty Studio, and it was honestly perfect for this spread. It's subtle, warm, and very October coded. The stickers are a mix from Journal Say and Being Fae, which I love layering together. Now in terms of the stats, I read 7 books total, and all of them were adult reads. I feel like I haven't been reading much YA anymore, and it just feels very childish. I'm not into it anymore, I don't know. I go into vibes here and there. Author-wise, this month leaned heavily female. 6 female authors and just 1 male author. That wasn't intentional, but it's always interesting to see those patterns emerge when I look back. In terms of where my authors are from, 6 were from the US and 1 was from Canada, which makes me want to be a little bit more intentional about reaching for international authors in the coming months. Representation-wise, 2 of the books included LGBTQ+ representation, which I was really happy to see woven into the stories naturally. Genre-wise, October was very much a romantasy month. 4 romantasy reads, alongside 2 fantasy books and 1 horror read to fully embrace the spooky season. My formats were nicely mixed this month too. I read 3 physical books, 2 ebooks, and 2 audiobooks, which felt like a really balanced way to read depending on my mood and schedule. Ratings were kind of all over the place, but in a good way. I had 1 2-star read, which definitely wasn't my favorite, and I hardly give any star below 3 for a lot of the books that I read, so this was a little bit of a very disappointment read for me. But then 4 4-star reads that I really enjoyed, and 2 5-star reads that absolutely stood out for me, and one of them is definitely like one of my favorite books that I read this year. Overall, it felt like a really solid reading month. A few misses, a lot of strong hits, and a couple of books that I know I'll be thinking about for a long time. The first book I read in October was Plain Eyes by Rachel Harrison, and this one was such a fun way to start the month. It was also a book club pick from my local book club. The premise is equal parts eerie and absurd. Cleo inherits her childhood home after her estranged mother dies, only to discover that the house is still occupied by a supposed demon. Her sisters want absolutely nothing to do with it, but Cleo, who is very much a fixer, decides she'll clean the place up and sell it. While she's sorting through everything, she finds her mother's novel, a so-called fictionalized account of their haunting, and starts reading it. And as Cleo spends more time in the house, the lines between fiction and reality begin to blur. Is she unraveling, or was her mother telling the truth all along? What I really loved about this book is how Rachel Harrison balances the supernatural with the very human messiness of the Barnes family. The book within a book trope can sometimes completely derail a story, but here it actually added depth without slowing anything down. The horror elements are pretty light, creepy in places, but never over the top, and the family drama does a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to tension. It ends up feeling like a haunted house story crossed with a dysfunctional family soap opera, and somehow that mix works really well. Even the influencer subplot, which absolutely could have felt gimmicky, actually fits into the chaos in a way that makes sense. That said, Cleo herself is a lot. She's manipulative, self-absorbed, and maybe a little too comfortable sharing a roof with a demon that doodles smiley faces. The entire cast is deeply flawed, in a way that's both maddening and entertaining. The demon, symbolic or not, is probably one of the least threatening demons in horror fiction, but that's not really where the story shines. The charm is in the family dynamics, the humor, and the sheer weirdness of it all. Play Nice is a messy, clever, and a whole lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars, and it's definitely not going to be my last Rachel Harrison novel. For this spread, the washi tape that I use is from Simply Gilded, and the pet tape, the purple girls, those are from London Gifties. The spider web, that was the pet tape that I bought at Michael's on clearance after their Halloween sale. After I wrote the review for the book, I had a little bit more empty space, so I just went ahead and filled it with more of that spider pet tape from Michael's. And this was my first book of the month. The second book I read in October was Alchemised by Stanley Niu, and I don't think a book has hit me this hard in years. I was honestly in a huge reading slump ever since finishing it. Not because it wasn't incredible, but because it completely drained me in the best and worst way. Like, I literally could not read a single other book after it. I even went back and reread this book because I just could not get enough of the story. Alchemised, it's a dark fantasy at its most gutting. It's an unflinching descent into the psychological wreckage of war, where every victory comes at a horrifying cost. Stanley Niu's writing is so raw and precise that it's almost unbearable at times. You don't just read the trauma, you absorb it. The world itself is steeped in dread. The magic feels soaked in rot and blood, and yet the prose is so beautiful that you cannot look away, even when you desperately want to. If you're an empathetic reader, this is your warning. This book cuts deep. The necromantic elements take the darkness to another level entirely. The dead walk among the living as soldiers, slaves, and experiments. each described with a physicality that's genuinely unsettling. You feel the stench, the decay, the horror of recognizing faces that once belonged to the living. I'm usually squeamish about gore, but here it served the story so perfectly that I found myself grimacing and reading faster anyway. Beneath all that grotesque imagery is a constant moral unease that lingers long after you turn the page, asking what it really means to fight for life when death is everywhere. And then there's Helena and Cain. I don't even know where to start with them. They're not heroes, not even close, but they're absolutely magnetic. Two brilliant, broken people bound together by love in a world that's falling apart. Their relationship is devastating and defiant all at once. The single flicker of light in an otherwise ruined landscape. Every choice they make pushes the limits of morality, and by the end, I was left genuinely questioning whether redemption can even exist in a world so thoroughly steeped in sin. The world building here is nothing short of masterful. From their intricate system of alchemy and enmity to the haunting mythos of Luna, Lumithia, and the Holdfast dynasty. Alchemised is brutal, complex, and staggeringly beautiful. It's the kind of book that ruins you a little and then dares you to thank it for doing so. One quick note if you decide to read it. The book is split into 3 parts, and I highly recommend going back to reread part 1 after finishing part 2. You'll experience it in a completely different way. Alchemised actually began its life as a Harry Potter fanfiction, with Helena originally written as Hermione Granger and Cain as Draco Malfoy. And personally, I wish I hadn't known that going in. For the first 30% of the book, I kept trying to map the characters back onto their Harry Potter counterparts. Who was meant to be who, which traits lined up, what parallels I was supposed to be seeing, and it distracted me from fully sinking into the story on its own terms. That said, once I let go of that impulse, the book completely took over. This world is fully revamped. The magic system, the politics, the mythology, none of it mirrors the Harry Potter universe in any meaningful way. The story stands entirely on its own, and when you allow it to, it's far more powerful that way. If you're going into Alchemised, I'd honestly recommend treating it as what it is now. A wholly original, deeply unsettling dark fantasy, rather than trying to trace its origins while you read. When it came time to set up the reading journal spread for Alchemised, I honestly struggled with how to do this book justice. The story left me pretty much speechless, and I knew I wanted a spread that could hold that weight. Something that felt intentional, not rushed, and that gave me enough space to really sit with my thoughts. As part of the pre-order incentives, we received fan art created by Avondale Art, and the artwork was just stunning. I knew immediately that I wanted to incorporate it into my journal somehow because it captured the atmosphere of the story so perfectly. At the same time, I didn't want the art to completely take over the spread. This is one of those books where I needed room to write, room to process, to unpack, and to just let my thoughts spill out. So I decided to do a Dutch door style spread, which ended up being the perfect solution. It lets the art shine while still giving me plenty of space underneath to write everything I needed to say. For the border around the spread, I'm using gouache and gold watercolor to frame everything and add a bit of richness. After I finished it, it felt a little bit like Gryffindor colors, so I kind of regretted it. I should have gone with like a rich emerald green for my Slytherin folks. But no, this book is entirely its own thing. It's not a Harry Potter at all. So it's not Gryffindor related. I didn't do a good job at sticking the art, and so when I cut it, there was a little bit of white empty space, so I went over on top of it with a washi tape to make it a little bit more coherent. Since I was using craft paper, it was a little bit tough for the gold to pop up, and so I went over it with my gold watercolor as well to just give it a little bit more of a shine. It looks a lot better in person than the camera portrays. The skinny washi tape that I'm using is from Simply Gilded, and I honestly love the skinny washes from her. They always add like a very nice gold touch or silver depending on the color combo that you get. And this was my spread for Alchemised, a book that left me completely broken. The next book I read in October was Voidwalker by S.A. McLean. I received an ARC of this book by Orbit Books, so thank you so much. This book had such a great concept. We've got a smuggler who can sleep between worlds, an immortal predator ruling from the shadows, and a society built on a blood debt where humans literally sustain their monstrous overloads. From the first few chapters, I was completely hooked. 5 fearing stolen magic, political tension simmering under the surface, a heist that goes very wrong and snowballs into something much bigger. It all felt rich, cinematic, and immediately high stakes. The world building here is one of the book's biggest strengths. The universe feels dangerous and alive, with sharp details that make every choice feel risky. Somewhere around the middle, though, the pacing started to lose its edge. The story stretches a bit longer than it needs to, and there were scenes that dragged when the momentum really should have been accelerating. And then there's the romance, which might not be my subgenre. The relationship between Fi and Antal walks a very fine line between fascination and discomfort. I understand the appeal of monster romance, but it didn't quite work for me here. That said, Voidwalker is bold and imaginative with a strong atmosphere and genuinely high-stakes plotting. If you like your fantasy dangerous, morally murky, and very literal about its monsters, this might be one to check out. For the spread, the washi tape is from Simply Gilded, and the pet tape is from London Gifties. The girl is just an image I found on Pinterest and I printed it on sticker paper. I wanted the title to stand out a little bit more, so I decided to color it a little bit with a white pencil, just to give it a little bit more shine and sparkle. I then use my white jelly roll to give it a little bit more sparkle here and there. After writing my review, I still had a little bit more space for some stickers, so I just stick these stickers that I got from AliExpress. And that was the spread for this book. The next 2 books I'm setting up together because they're a duology, and honestly, they really deserve to be talked about as one complete story. Overall, this was a really solid Romantasy duology, and Heartless Hunter was everything I personally wanted from the genre. High stakes, sharp tension, and a romance that burns slow but hits hard. Heartless Hunter is set in a glittering world rebuilt after a bloody revolution, where witches have gone from ruling elites to hunted outcasts. Rune, one of the last witches hiding in plain sight, spends her days pretending to be a shallow socialite and her nights as the Crimson Moth, smuggling witches to safety. When one mission goes wrong, she becomes entangled with Gideon Sharp, a ruthless witch hunter who also happens to be her best friend's older brother. and the perfect mark for her next scheme. The enemies to lovers dynamic between Rune and Gideon is done so well. Their fake courtship becomes this dangerous game of deception and desire, with both of them trying to outmaneuver the other while slowly unraveling the lies they've built around themselves. It's a very like Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of story. Rune is clever, brave, and quietly defiant, and Gideon, who's been raised to hate everything she is, starts questioning the world he thought he understood. Watching his armor crack as he begins to truly see her had me completely hooked. Rebel Witch picks up right where the first book leaves off and wastes absolutely no time throwing Rune and Gideon into new dangers, betrayals, and impossible choices. Gideon was probably my favorite part of the entire duology. His internal conflict between duty and love absolutely wrecked me. Seeing his softer, more vulnerable side made every sacrifice hit that much harder. Rebel Witch is a fast-paced, emotional finale about courage, sacrifice, and the kind of love that defies every rule. And it was such a satisfying way to close out this duology. For this spread, the washi tape that I use is from Simply Gilded, and the pet tape is from London Gifties. The fan art I found on Pinterest, and I just printed it on sticker paper. The next book I read in October was Quicksilver, and unfortunately, this was my most disappointing read of the year. If I had a nickel for every book about a human girl falling into a fae world, I'd have a pretty decent pile of nickels. But if I had a nickel for every good one, maybe one, possibly two. Quicksilver had so much hype online that I really thought this would be the one to change my mind. But it absolutely did not deliver. What I expected to be an immersive fantasy ended up being one of the most frustrating reading experiences I've had in a while. And we need to start with the characters, because they were rough. I didn't really like anyone except Carrion, who somehow managed to carry the entire book on his back. The main character, Ceres, was bland to the point of invisibility. Her brother Hayden is set up as incredibly important at the beginning, and then basically disappears a quarter of the way in. She spends chapters insisting she has to save him, and then just forgets he exists. And Fisher. I kept seeing people call him their book boyfriend, and I genuinely don't know what they were reading. Grumpy and complicated is one thing, but outright cruel, hard pass. I found him unpleasant in a way that made it impossible for me to root for the romance. The plot itself was a complete mess. Things happened, but not in a way that felt cohesive or earned. The magic system made absolutely no sense to me. Trying to connect the dots felt like doing math wrong on purpose and still expecting it to work. By the halfway point, I was honestly just waiting for it to end, which made the fact that it's over 600 pages feel even more painful. I will admit the ending was mildly satisfying, but not nearly enough to redeem the chaos that came before it. I actually started this one as a physical read and had to switch to audio just to get through it, which is never a great sign. This one ended up being a 2-star read for me, and a solid reminder that TikTok hype doesn't always mean a book would work for you. For me, this was a hard pass, and I didn't even read the second book. For the spread, I found this fan art of Ceres on Pinterest, which was very cute, and so I decided to print it on sticker paper. And I had this sticker sheet from Sticky Club, which contains a bunch of butterflies, and so I figured I could put her inside the bottle, if it makes sense, and then just have the bottle on top and the butterflies kind of like flying around. For the title, I decided to use my Posca white marker originally to write out Quicksilver, and I really like the font that this book has, so I tried to mimic that. But then I went over it with my silver metallic watercolor to give it more of like a silver hue, and it turned out pretty cool actually. And this was my spread for Quicksilver. The last book I want to talk about is Brigands Breadknives by Travis Baldree, and this one felt like the perfect way to close out this reading stretch. This time, Fern, our wary Rat King bookseller from Bookshops and Bone Dust, takes center stage, and I was so happy to follow her. Feeling stuck in a rut, she decides to start over by opening a bookshop beside her old friend Viv's coffee house in Toon. What begins as a charming, fresh start quickly spirals into chaos after one too many drinks and a series of questionable decisions land her in the back of a wagon belonging to the legendary bounty hunter Asterix 1 Year. From there, Fern finds herself tangled up in a perilous road trip filled with duels, betrayals, and an imprisoned chaos goblin with a very strong opinion about silverware. The story has all the warmth and whimsy that makes Baldree's world so beloved. But there's more motion and danger this time, just enough to balance the cozy. Fern's dynamic with Asterix was one of my favorite parts of the book. They're two women standing at very different crossroads, each quietly nudging the other toward rediscovering something they've lost. And Zill the Goblin absolutely steals every scene she's in. The journey itself is full of heart, humor, and a few twists that feel genuinely earned. It's a comforting world, even when swords are swinging. I really loved how Baldree continues to deepen this universe without losing its charm. Their writing is full of little delights. Quirky dialogue, thoughtful reflections, and a rhythm that feels like sharing a good story over coffee. I also listened to this on an audio narrated by Travis Baldree himself, and it was wonderful. His pacing and character voices feel perfectly in tune with the cozy, adventurous tone of the story. Brigands Breadknives leans a little bit more adventurous than Legends of Lattes, but it never strays from that comforting spirit that makes this book such a joy to read. I sincerely hope there's more to come in this world, because I'm never quite ready to leave it. The stickers that I used for this spread actually came in one of my Illumicrate monthly subscription boxes a long time ago, and I never actually got to use them until now. The Sky washi tape is from AliExpress, and the Love Valley washi tape is from Simply Gilded. So this marks the end of all of my October reads, and as you can see, following next month, my November reads will all gonna be in a blackout journal pages, so I'm very excited for those. Even though this video is coming a little later than planned, I really love taking the time to slow down and reflect on these reads. November and December are already filmed, so those setups are coming very soon. I just need to edit and add the voiceovers. Thank you so much for spending this cozy time with me. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, subscribe, or let me know in the comments what your favorite October read was. Until next time, happy reading and happy journaling.